Iconic, there is a land so small you could drive across it in just a few hours. But on that land, three of humanity's greatest religions claim it as Holy Land. That land is Jerusalem. Why do Muslims turn to this place with such deep reverence? Why do Christians see it as the land of salvation? And why do Jews believe it to be the center of God's sacred promise? But that's just the surface. Do you know what Big Eid and Little Eid really are? Why do Christians celebrate Easter and Christmas? What are the ancient Jewish festivals awaiting? How do they pray? How do they purify themselves? What does halal truly mean? What is forbidden to them? What is the meaning of the hats they wear? Why do they sway while praying, hang hairbands on their temples, and weep before the sacred Western Wall? Iconic. But then the story takes a different turn. What does the legendary Ark of the Covenant contain? How long until Judgment Day? Why do some believe a nation will be punished before the end of the world? And why is a small community connected to Israel considered to have an influence far beyond its size? The deeper you go, the more shocking things become, from prophecies, mysterious rituals, taboos, to historical secrets rarely heard by the new generation. There are things that could completely change the way you see the Middle East. Watch until the end, because the most amazing part is yet to begin. Iconic, most people think Jerusalem is just a disputed city. That is the first mistake, because Jerusalem is not important because of politics. Politics came later. Jerusalem mattered long before modern borders existed. This is a city where faith runs deeper than stone. For Muslims, this is the home of Al-Aqsa Mosque, the first Qibla, the place linked to Isra and Miraj. For Jews, this is the city of the ancient temple, and the Western Wall remains a place of prayer after thousands of years. For Christians, Church of the Holy Sepulchre is among the holiest places on earth. Three religions, one city, on paper that should not work. Yet somehow it does. And that is where the real story begins. Because Jerusalem is tied to Abraham, to David, to Solomon. Empires came here, empires vanished. Iconic, Jerusalem stayed. That alone is strange. Even stranger people do not fight over Jerusalem only for territory. They fight over memory, over prophecy, over who belongs in the story. And you can feel that, in the narrow streets, in the prayers pressed into old stones. In the silence before dawn, this is not just a city people visit. It is a city people face. Because in Jerusalem, religion is not history, it still lives. Iconic, but Jerusalem was only the beginning. Because the deeper you look, the stranger the story gets. The name Israel traces back to Jacob. According to tradition, his descendants became the children of Israel, and that is where a people became a nation. Then came kings. David made Jerusalem a capital. Solomon built the first temple. It was not just a building, it was identity in stone. Then it was destroyed. Exile followed. Return followed. Then destruction again. Build, lose, return. That pattern keeps repeating for thousands of years. Even the Western Wall carries that memory, not as ruins, as survival. Then came 1948, and everything changed. The modern state of Israel was born, for many Jews return, for many Palestinians loss, two memories, one land, and that tension never left. Iconic wars came. Borders moved. Settlements grew. But the question stayed. Who belongs here? And then there is Tabut Sakina, the Ark lost, searched for, wrapped in prophecy. Some see legend, some see history. But even that tells you something. In this land, the past does not stay buried. It keeps returning. Iconic, but survival was only part of the story. Because a deeper question remained: how does a people keep identity when kingdoms fall and homelands disappear? For many Jews, the answer was faith and ritual. Daily life itself became preservation, a kippah on the head, tefillin bound to arm and forehead, a talit over the shoulders. Small acts, but never small meanings, because every symbol says the same thing. Remember, even food carries identity. Kosher is not just diet, it is discipline, boundaries, memory practiced at the table, then comes Sabbath. And this may be the strangest paradox of all. One day every week, the world stops. No work, no rush, no ordinary time. Just rest, in a civilization built on motion that feels radical. Then come the festivals. Hanukkah Passover remembers freedom. Purim remembers survival. Rosh Hashanah begins reflection. Past, present, future, all held together. And then prophecy enters. Some believe in a coming third temple. Some await messianic fulfillment. Some see these as symbolic hopes. Views differ. But expectation remains, and that matters, because belief here is not only about what happened, it is also about what may still come. And maybe that is why these traditions endured. They did not just preserve a people, they gave history a future. Hanukkah, but faith alone does not explain Israel, because there is another paradox. How does a country smaller than many U.S. states carry influence far beyond its size? That should not happen. Yet somehow it does. Israel has a relatively small population. No vast territory, limited natural resources. On paper, it should be vulnerable, but that is only part of the story. Because scarcity forced invention, and invention became culture. This is the country often called the startup nation, a place where research labs, cyber firms, and venture capital helped build a global innovation hub. See a problem, fix it, then improve it. That mindset runs deep, from water technology to cybersecurity to medical innovation. Even risk is viewed differently. Chronic failure is often treated less as stigma and more as experience. That feels unusual, but powerful. And then there is education. Not just memorizing facts, but questioning them, debate, experiment, challenge assumptions. That produces a certain kind of thinking, strategic thinking. And yes, security shaped part of that too. Military service for many citizens has also fed skills later used in technology and entrepreneurship. Small country, global reach, another paradox, because influence here was not built mainly through size. It was built through systems ideas, adaptation. And maybe that is the deeper lesson. Power is not always about land. Sometimes it is about how a society learns faster than its problems grow. Iconic, but innovation alone does not explain survival, because there is another layer. Security, and in Israel, security is not something far away. It is part of daily life. That changes a society. In Israel, military service has long been part of the national structure, including conscription for many Jewish citizens, with different rules and exemptions across communities. That means defense is not seen only as the army's job. It becomes social memory, shared responsibility, almost a civic language. And that shapes people early. Men serve, women serve too, and that surprises many outsiders. Because women here have served in roles ranging from intelligence to air defense, and in some combat-related positions. That is not symbolic, that is structural. Then there is the technology. Iconic missile defense systems like Iron Dome changed how the world talks about interception. Cyber capabilities changed how the world thinks about modern conflict. Because wars are not fought only on borders anymore. Sometimes they move through code. One click, one breach, one disruption. That is the battlefield too. And maybe that is why preparedness feels woven into ordinary life. Bomb shelters, emergency drills, rapid response systems, things many societies barely think about here. People do constantly. And that creates another paradox. A society built under pressure can become unusually organized, unusually resilient, sometimes even unusually innovative. Because when survival is always part of the equation, people tend to think ahead. Iconic, and in Israel, that mindset became part of the system itself. Iconic, but defense is only part of the paradox. Because some of Israel's strangest strengths have nothing to do with war, they come from limits. And that is where this gets interesting. How does a country with deserts, water scarcity, and few natural resources become known for solving shortages? That should not work, yet somehow it does. In Israel, scarcity often pushed innovation. Take water. Instead of accepting shortage, they engineered around it large-scale desalination, wastewater recycling, and drip irrigation, a breakthrough that changed farming worldwide. Use less, grow more, waste nothing. That is a philosophy, not just a technique. And then agriculture. Desert land producing crops, greenhouses in harsh climates, food systems built on precision. Again, strange. Iconic, because on paper this landscape should be restrictive. Yet it produces then energy. Solar power became practical long before it became fashionable. Many homes use solar water heating. Simple idea, scaled nationally. That matters, and the pattern keeps repeating. Small country, limited resources. High-tech economy. Another paradox, because development here often came not from abundance, but from pressure. Solve the shortage, improve the system. Repeat, that rhythm shows up everywhere. Transport, infrastructure, research. And maybe that is the deeper lesson. Some societies grow because they have plenty, others grow because they have no choice. Israel often had the second path, and sometimes necessity really does become invention. Iconic, but infrastructure does not build a society by itself. People do. And maybe that is the deeper story, because behind technology, behind defense, behind all these systems, there is a question few people ask. How do you build the kind of people who can sustain them? In Israel, many observers point to culture as part of the answer. Not just schooling, but how children are taught to think, ask questions, challenge assumptions, solve problems. That starts early, and it feels different. In many places, education can mean memorizing answers. Here, the stereotype is often the opposite. Argue, debate, test the idea, see if it holds. That kind of thinking can be messy, but sometimes productive. And family plays a role too. Books matter, conversation matters, expectation matters. A child is often not treated only as a student, but as a future decision maker. That changes tone. Then there is the link between learning and practice. Research meets business. Ideas meet markets. Theory alone is not enough. Build something, try something, see what works. That mindset shaped entrepreneurship, but maybe even more than that. It shaped confidence. The belief that problems are meant to be engaged, not avoided. And that may be the real secret. Not genius training, habits, culture repeated over generations. Because strong societies do not only invest in roads or weapons, they invest in minds, and sometimes that turns out to be the most strategic investment of all. But even systems and education do not explain everything, because some of the strangest parts of Israel live in the gray zone between history and legend, and that is where things get weird. Take the Dead Sea, a place so salty people float. That alone feels unreal, but for many it is not just geology. It is tied to ancient stories linked to Lot and the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, history, memory, myth layered onto landscape, maybe all three. Then there is Tabut Sakina, the Ark, lost for centuries, still debated, still imagined, and somehow still powerful, because sacred objects do not have to be found to shape belief. Then there is Shemitah. Every 7th year, a rhythm of release. Land rests, depths can be addressed under religious law, ancient idea, still discussed today. That is unusual. And then the law of return. A legal idea tied to identity itself. That too carries controversy. Then, smaller details, easy to miss. The menorah, ancient symbol, modern emblem, revived Hebrew language. A language brought back into daily life. Mass tree planting, turning landscape into national memory. See the pattern? Even ordinary things here can carry civilizational weight. A coin, a tree, a symbol, nothing feels only ordinary. And maybe that is the real mystery of Israel. Even its smallest details seem connected to a much older story. iconic, but maybe the real story was never the mysteries. It was what they point to. A bigger question: how does a small nation leave such a large imprint on the world? That is the question underneath everything. And maybe the answer is not one thing. It is layers: organization, knowledge, long-term thinking, working together, even under pressure that matters. Because power is not always what it looks like. There is hard power, military strength, defense systems, security strategy. We saw that. But there is also soft power, ideas, innovation, finance, influence. And sometimes that can travel farther. Israel built part of its strength through both. That is unusual. A country can be small in territory and large in leverage. That is a paradox many people miss. Iconic, because scale and influence are not the same thing. And maybe that is the lesson. Small does not mean weak. Not if institutions work. Not if education compounds. Not if strategy thinks decades ahead. See a threat, prepare early. Adapt fast. That pattern kept returning. Across history. Across crises. Across generations. And maybe that is why Israel remains studied. Not because people agree about it. Often they do not. But because it forces hard questions. What makes a society resilient? What turns memory into strategy? What lets a people outsize geography? That may be the real phenomenon, not a miracle. A system. And once you see that, the story looks very different. If this journey has given you a new perspective, please share your thoughts below. Iconic. What surprised you most about Israel? Its history? Its contradictions? Its resilience? I'd love to hear your answers, and if you enjoy insightful travel documentaries like this, subscribe for more. Because there are so many other places where the deeper you delve, the stranger the story becomes.